roboto, Mr. Roboto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have a pair of Eisner Award-winning creators on. We've got Kelley Jones and Matt Wagner talking about their brand new Kickstarter, Dracula Book 3, The Count. After that, we've got composer Seth Wright on with us, talking about a music festival going on in Rochester, New York next week. And after that, we've got actors Elliot Knight and Uli Latakefu talking about Countdown on Prime. Stand by.
Comics and movies and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you. Thank you very much for spending part of your Sunday evening with us. If you're streaming us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to all of you out there who watch the show live. As always, if you're streaming on the KTRS app or on the KTRS website, we appreciate you doing that. And if you're hearing this after the fact in the podcast form, try to catch us live if you can. It's always more fun to engage with you. But if not, we appreciate you listening however you're getting it on whatever podcast platform you are tuning in. Full show tonight, so we're going to dive right in. Matt Wagner and Kelley Jones, two very exciting creators. I've been fans of both these gentlemen's work for years now, and to have them both working on one project, let alone having them on my show, is absolutely incredible. Gentlemen, thanks for your time tonight.
You bet. Thanks for having us on.
More than pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I obviously it's the perfect time, I think, to be talking about Dracula. When you hit October, that's the kind of time when people want Dracula, Frankenstein, Count Chocula's out on the shelves in the cereal aisle. And this is book 3. So you've obviously already done The Impaler was book 1, The Brides was book 2. Now we're on The Count himself. Talk a little bit about going back to book 1, your initial collaboration between the two of you. How did the idea for this come about?
Well, Kelley and I have known each other for decades. We both contributed to Season of Mists, the kind of most popular of the story arc on Neil Gaiman's Sandman classic series. And we had always kind of threatened and promised to work together one day. And, just the parts never quite lined up correctly. But then Kelley kind of hit me up with that a comment on Facebook, like, we really got to work together again. And I had been brewing on this idea about how to address Dracula in an all-new fashion, and yet still remain strictly adhering to the canon, the existing canon of the novel. And I called him and said, dude, are you serious? Because I think I got the perfect thing for us, but it's going to take 5, 6, 7 years of our lives probably to see it through to fruition, And luckily, he said yes. The time was just right for both of us.
And obviously, I love one of my favorite works by you, Kelley, is the Batman Dracula Red Rain. That one was brilliant. Is this working on the 3 of these? Is there a plan how many books do you have planned out in this series? How further along do we have to go in the journey? What's the process?
Matt told me it was going to be 4 volumes.
Okay.
And so we're into the 3rd right now. And again, when he told me what his ideas were, I thought they were brilliant. And so it was very easy to say yes, because I thought he had truly done something very different and brought a lot of new blood to the whole thing. And I'm a jaded old horror fan, so I thought I knew everything there was. And after he told me what he had planned, it was exciting. I mean, just hearing it was exciting. And if you're an artist, you're not going to be bored. That's the best thing ever, is if I'm excited, someone reading it is going to be excited. And
for your listeners that haven't seen the books and don't know what we're talking about here, our take on the Dracula is we are not doing a retelling of the original novel. That's been done to death. Many, many different film versions, comic book versions, stage versions, et cetera, et cetera. We are taking all the tiny little hints that are in the book, the original novel by Bram Stoker, published in 1897, and we're greatly expanding those to fill in all the shadowy stories behind the stories. Like, for instance, in book one, twice in the course of the novel, Professor Van Helsing mentions that when he was alive, Dracula attended something called the Scholomance, which is a real Eastern European legend of a seminary for the dark arts that's hosted way up in the mountains by and taught by Satan himself. And it's the tenure is 7 years. He takes 10 students at a time. At the end of 7 years, he keeps one of them. And I was always just like, how come nobody's ever done anything with that? That's amazing. That's such a great story, just waiting to be told, you know. And then in book two, we have Dracula's brides who make such an indelible appearance in the book, and they're only in the book for 3 or 4 pages. So we had to concoct a complete history for these 3 women and make them believable and make them empathetic and horrifying too.
And what Matt did that I thought was particularly striking was in the first book we see who Vlad was before he became a vampire and realized,
and he wasn't much different.
Now there was no difference, and that was fascinating. That became extreme. He's not, he doesn't think of himself as an evil fellow. He thinks of himself as an important bulwark.
The most important.
Yes, and that he is to hold back the hordes and defend Christendom and by whatever means necessary. And it's a fascinating character.
We've seen, to your point that you made, that there are so many different adaptations. I always go back and to the 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman is one of my favorites. We just saw Renfield, which some people appreciated the more gothic take on it. And I unironically enjoyed Nicolas Cage as Dracula in just Renfield, the one that we had with Nicholas Hoult as well. But one of the ones that impressed me the most was The Last Voyage of the Demeter that just came out not too long ago. And that, to your point again, Matt, was just this slice. They took one chapter out of the book and they made a whole movie out of it. And I love that. And I know David Dasmalchian, we had him on the show to talk about that movie. But I love the fact that that's what the two of you are digging into, is those little tiny things that don't get explored in each one of these adaptations.
Yeah, and so the one we're doing now, The Count, is what takes place in conjunction with the novel. Anybody that's read the novel or a fan of the novel knows that once the action shifts from Castle Dracula in Transylvania to the foggy streets of Victorian London, one of the most frustrating aspects is the fact that Dracula is pretty much off stage for the rest of the book. He's treated as just kind of this, in a very typical Gothic fashion, he's treated as this kind of sinister presence more than an actual physical villain. And that worked at the time, and it worked for that style of book. But, for monster fans, I want me some more Dracula, So, we show you everything he's doing in the shadows and away from the attention of the heroes, We address a lot of the practical aspects of him moving to this major metropolis. It's one of the biggest cities in the world at that point. It's the center of the British Empire, which at that time it was said the empire on which the sun never sets.
Right.
It's so globally spanning that it reached all the way around the world. So he's moving there from 400 years in an isolated castle in the Carpathian Mountains. So that's a big change, right? And he's got to negotiate that. He's got to explore that. He's got to figure out how to exploit that. And he's not just on a mad rampage. He's cautious. He's a tactician. He's a military leader when he was alive, so he understands what battle is like. And he spent 400 years as a vampire, and vampires have to be careful.
Yeah.
There's certain things that will destroy them. So he's going about it in very sneaky and sinister fashion, but he's definitely got goals.
I was blown away by the amount that's already on the Kickstarter. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're already into it and you're like, yeah, this sounds good, we're going to have a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. So if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there in the show notes will be a link to the Kickstarter for Dracula Book 3, The Count, which you guys have obviously blown past. You're sitting at almost $173,000 for this piece back. I'm assuming that people are catching on and each one's a little bit more. Like, obviously, once you launch the first Kickstarter, if that hadn't gone well, we wouldn't be here talking about Book 3 right now. But I take it it's just been...
Book 2 dropped a little bit because, it was like will lightning strike twice, But I think we might surpass Book 2 with this one because we're firmly established. I want to point out to people, too, if you're listening and this sounds intriguing to you and you didn't get in on the first 2, you can still buy the first 2 volumes in this current Kickstarter. In fact, we have a bundle where with just one click, you can get all 3 books either in print or digital.
And the Kickstarters, so many people, especially independent creators, like to go to this stuff now because they can own their own material. It's not the property of the comic book company that you worked at when you built it. And more people are turning to this. Some people love the Kickstarter process and are excited about it. Some people are like, oh, yeah, we have to do it. And we don't. Where do the two of you fall on the spectrum of how much you enjoy the process of the Kickstarter itself?
I think we like it. I mean, I've been in the independent comics end of comics for, over 40 years, and this is just a new business model, you know? And yet at the same time, I recognize that a lot of people, as you said, don't care for Kickstarter things and don't pay any attention to them at all. So we have a deal with Dark Horse Comics, of course, very well-established and reputable publisher, wherein they release a trade paperback version after our hardcover version comes out. So the Kickstarter campaigns are the only place to get the hardcover editions. But if you're not particular about hardcovers, you can get from Dark Horse Comics, either online or via your local comic shop, a trade paperback version of each and every volume.
And Kelley, you were saying before we went on air that everything's, you guys are perfectly on time. You guys are turning in everything like you're supposed to, which makes everyone happy. And I assume that also makes for a much more successful Kickstarter when you're not under the gun on stuff, on deadlines.
It's the way I was trained at DC while doing Batman and things. You had to be on time.
Yeah, and both of us are old pros when it comes to that stuff. Additionally, I had seen a lot of friends of mine try this Kickstarter thing and get in a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? They had raised a lot of money and they were not able to follow through in a timely fashion and generated a lot of ill will. And both Kelley and I came into this going, that's not going to be us. We're going to make sure that...
I want to see the book myself. I want to hold these. I'm pretty proud of these, and I think they exceeded my expectations, and I had high expectations. And so I physically want them so I can brag about them to my friends who, and especially the other people who do this, saying, yes, you can do creator-owned, and you can make something good, and you just, certainly be on time.
Right.
But you can put your all into this. I can't see any downside to it because I get freedom to put on paper everything I've wanted to do.
And let's face it, we're working with Dracula. I always maintain throughout this entire process that Dracula is the most famous literary character of all time.
Yeah.
There's literally almost nowhere in the world you can go and not say the name Dracula, and everybody will kind of know. They might have a particular not correct version, but based more on movies than anything. Right. But everybody knows who Dracula is,
And
so we're just having a blast being able to work with this extremely iconic character,
And he does great, horrible things that I couldn't do. Right? Those horrible things, I don't have to worry about it. He does it, I show it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and that I should point out again for your listeners, we're not taking a romantic approach here. You mentioned the Coppola version. The Coppola version has this giant romance running through it. That's not in the novel at all. He's a monster. That's it. And ours is a monster. I mean, he's a very human monster. You recognize and find yourself rooting for him in certain ways. But we have a great history with those kind of characters. People love that sort of thing. Again. I created and have written the character of Grendel for over 40 years, which is an unrepentant villain. But you look at something like Hannibal Lecter and Tony Soprano. People love these monsters in which they can see a tiny bit of themselves, a sliver of themselves. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Or if my inner beast was let free to roam.
Yeah.
There's a freedom in sometimes what Dracula does. where you go, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there is that more. I feel like the Nosferatu, the original, that version was much more dark and sinister. Where, to your point, Matt, they did romanticize him a little bit more in some of the movies. Do the two of you have a favorite theatrical version of the character?
Kel, you can start.
Probably Christopher Lee, 1966, Dracula, the Prince of Darkness. Not a line of dialogue, and he's feral in it. And it is horrific and wonderful all the way through. The supporting characters are outstanding. In fact, I always wanted to do a book based on the Monsignor or whatever he was who goes after him. He's like a vampire hunter, but he's a priest or something. But it's a terrific movie. But what really always stuck with me with that was, without a word, he was terrifying.
Yeah. And Matt?
I love kind of like every film version of it, and yet none of them truly satisfy me, which is what led us to do our own version. You know, you mentioned the Coppola version there. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with that one. There's a lot I like about it. There's a lot I don't. That Last Voyage of Demeter, terrific, fun film. I thought it didn't stick its landing. I thought we needed to see him as a human at the end and realize, oh, that's how that guy looks now. Instead, he still looks like the same beast, you know, that you saw on the ship. I love every version of Nosferatu. As Kelley said, Christopher Lee's run with Hammer Studios is fantastic, although it's kind of diminishing returns. They get less and less successful narratively as the series goes on. I love the Frank Langella version from the 80s. There's a lot of good stuff in that, aside from his poofy, blow-dried hairdo. But yeah, again, we kind of love all of them, but we're all like, but except for that part. Yeah. And so we decided to do ours that we don't say except for that part. All of everything we're doing satisfies us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know, Kelley, your artwork, your style is so distinctive. There are certain people who you can look at their stuff and say, that's Kelley Jones. Like, you've got such a unique style. Where did it come from? Because I know, obviously, like, if you show people different versions of Batman's, like, people can point out that's Norm Brayfogle, that one's Marshall Rogers, and obviously they can point yours as well. Where did that kind of style, that interpretation of Batman originate from, if I may ask?
It was probably, it came from the fear of being in the long, long, impressive shadow of Neil Adams. And I was trying to think of something, you know, because he did him so wonderfully realistic. I just went back to the 40s thing that, you know, he'll scare the hell out of people. So I started thinking of him not so much, you know, his physical build and all of his stuff. I thought, what kind of a silhouette would he make in a alley or in your room that you didn't know he was in there with you for 10 minutes? I kept thinking the fear aspect of him. So everything was designed so he would have this frightening silhouette, because I figured with his typical villains you see all the time, they're insane, they'll keep fighting him. But regular people would stop with just him saying, knock it off, go straight, and they would do it. And so that it really came from there, trying to work that out. And luckily it did.
And Kelley's work on this on our Dracula books is absolutely magnificent. I mean, again, when I finally came up with my idea, I was like, this has to be with Kelley. Like, this is the one. This is we've been looking for something to do together. This is the one. And I write the scripts and I write these things that I think Kelley's going to really just do great on. Like, oh, he's going to slay this scene, right? And then it comes back and it's better than I could have imagined it was going to be, you know. It is literally, without any irony, I think this is Kelley's magnum opus.
I agree. I think I consider myself an inker more than a penciler anyway.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm inking it is when it comes to life. To me, that's when I see these things finished, I get exhilarated over it, because I'll pencil them and they're all set up for that finish. I don't care how good the pencils look. I care about how good the finished inks look. So when
this is a good little opportunity to talk about our colorist too, Jose Villarrubia, because you were asking about influences there earlier. You know, I mean, Kelley and I, it kind of from the very beginning, I said, Kelley, I want this to be like creepy or eerie or heavy metal, the stuff that really appealed to us when we were teens, and Jose brings that sensibility to the book itself. It feels like an old school comic in certain ways. Still feels contemporary, but you can just tell we're wearing our influences on our sleeve,
Well, if they could show all the naughty bits and the blood and the gore,
which we do a lot of.
Yes, we do.
And the collaborative process between the two of you, do you kind of settle on, here's what we want thing, or is there a little bit of back and forth? Like Kelley, once you get some of the scripts, be like, oh, I kind of want to tweak this.
No. I stay out of the way. I know what's going on. I read it. When something's working, you don't have to do anything. You just, I actually prefer it that way. I like people. Whoever I'm working with, I like with Matt, I never tell him, and I never tell anyone, draw something I want to draw. Write what you write, I'll figure it out. I don't tell Jose really what to do. He sees it, he does it. I think everyone brings that kind of an energy. Luckily with Matt, I know he will say things to me like, hey, I thought of this, or I'm going to do that. And then when he gives it to me fully formed, it, as he was saying earlier about me, it exceeds what I thought. And it's exciting. And I know if I'm excited, there's times you get something, you go, I'm going to have to work on this and make it better. But this is a project I've never had one panel.
Yeah, because we're having so much fun, we know the readers are having that much fun.
No,
too,
and that's extraordinary. I've been doing this for a long time. And to come across that, it is amazing. Especially, I don't have to work. I've known Matt for so long. The worst thing is like, oh, Matt, this here isn't working. You don't want to do that.
Right.
But luckily, everything has come on, and I call him and say, Jesus, this is brilliant. This is so good. So, yes, it's
early on in the process. I bought us each. I found online these 2 Dracula whiskey tumblers.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
I will point out that Kelley's wearing the shirt there. So the logo we use on our books is the actual logo from the original 1897 first hardcover edition of the novel. Right. So that's on the whiskey tumbler. And then on the back of it is the first 3 sentences of the novel. So I got us each one of these. And he says when he gets the scripts in, he likes to read everything hard copy. So he prints it out, pours himself a bourbon, goes out back, sits down with the script, and he sips his bourbon and reads it. And yes. I can't imagine a better way to absorb.
Well, and I make a point to print it and read it because Matt's waiting on the other end saying, "What do you think?" So I want to read it a couple of times so I can give him what I think. I always, obviously he's glad he hears that I love it, but I don't really say much more than I love it. And there's this and there's that. And it's like a 5-minute. So he's working months and months and months to get a 5-minute, that's really great.
Right.
So I have to, to show I'm sincere. It's when you pour everything you got into the art.
And boy, is he.
No, everything I've seen, just the stuff I've seen so far posted and everything like that, it looks gorgeous. And the two of you are very active in promoting it, which I like seeing from creators. You're on social media all the time, which is fantastic. I have to ask now, Kelley, just because you mentioned it, what's your go-to bourbon currently?
Right now, there's one called Town Branch that I like. Okay. It's out of Kentucky. And it's a small batch one. It's kind of a mid-level cost one, but it's very good. Just sitting there and relaxing with.
Okay. I've been getting more into bourbons lately. That's why I ask, because I'm always curious what everyone's drinking.
Not to offend any other state, but if you stick with Kentucky and Tennessee, you're safe.
No, that's...
My day-to-day is Elijah Craig, and Elijah Craig is actually credited with creating bourbon, the actual man, Elijah Craig. I've also discovered a new bottle I really like called Blade and Bow. It's very, very tasty. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh. I know I talked to you both off air about potentially bringing you in for our Two Rivers Comic Con. We've got a fantastic small batch distillery in St. Charles.
What is it?
It's Cardinal Sin Distillery.
Great title.
Andy Parks is a bourbon guy. Andy Parks hosted a bourbon tasting thing at the last convention. So if you come in, we'll have to rope the two of you into that as well.
Yeah, I just saw Andy. He was here. He and Phil were here at the Rose City Con in Portland. So it was kind of a Team Green Arrow reunion, you know?
Yeah, no, that's on my list to make. I hear that's a fantastic convention. And before I let you go, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I want to ask about, you said 4 books total in this one. Did your idea of what the books were going to be, when you're writing these, Matt, did they slightly change at all based on how book 1 was received, or these are the stories and this is how we're going to do them regardless?
Yeah, not much. When
Okay.
our very first phone conversation, I kind of laid out the preliminaries. Here's what, again, very preliminary, but here's kind of what I envisioned for the first 4 books. Now, all this said, we are looking beyond that. I mean, I had 4 outlined from the beginning, but if it all comes to story, our absolute God is story.
Yeah.
And if we have good stories, we'll tell them. And I think maybe we'll have some more good stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the 2 of you attached, I can't imagine it would be anything other than incredible. Like I said, I'm so very grateful for your time on a Sunday to come on and chat about this. Normally, I always say that we're a good luck charm because if a Kickstarter is trying to go over the hump, usually if I have the guests on my show, that'll put them over. But that's not necessary with the 2 of you because you've
Hey, we'll take whatever
past,
you can give us, man.
blown past your goals. That's incredible.
More humps. We need more humps.
less Igor, but more Dracula, but still more humps.
Yes.
We're good.
Yeah.
Absolutely delightful. And real quick, before I let you both go, the best place to keep up with the 2 of you, social media handles and websites. We'll start with Kelley.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And Matt?
I'm not on Insta, but I do Twitter and Facebook, and my website is mattwagnercomics.art.
Perfect. We'll send people there, and if you're listening to this after the fact, we'll have links to their socials in the show notes. Matt Wagner, Kelley Jones, has been fantastic to talk to both of you. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
You bet. Hello, St. Louis.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There they go. Make sure you check that out again. We'll have the link to the Kickstarter. Back it because it's just incredible. The story and the art is amazing. This is something you're going to want to make sure you put on your bookshelf. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back in just a moment. We're going to have Seth Wright on. He's got a music festival coming up in Rochester the 16th or the 18th. We'll chat with him about that. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Some fun when Snubby Gun plays Private Eye, and you can have the same kind of fun with Mattel's Tommy Burst Detective Set. The Tommy Burst has automatic bolt action. Fire off a burst of 10 shots. Pull the bolt again, you're reloaded. Or fire single shots like a rifle. The Tommy Burst alone is $3. In the Detective Set, you also get the Snub Nose 38 and Snap Draw Shoulder Holster. The pistol fires greeny stickum caps and shoots safe shooting shells. The exciting new Tommy Burst Detective Set includes wallet, badge, and ID card. $7 wherever toys are sold. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers.
Now, you...
DOG, Dogtown Pizza, and DogtownPizza.com.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
The voice of Kevin Conroy bringing us back from commercial break because we just had Matt Wagner and Kelley Jones on, and we're getting ready to talk to another one who's had his hand in the Arkham realm. We'll talk to him in just a moment, but first, we'll make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. If you are wanting to get out, and maybe what we're talking about with our last 2 guests, maybe you're like, boy, I loved Kelley Jones' run, the art he did during the Nightfall storyline, or boy, you know what? Matt Wagner, I loved his work on Mage. I want to go out and get some of those. Check out Bugs Comics Games because chances are he's going to have some of those back issues you are seeking. New issues, obviously, every Wednesday. If you're wanting to go out there for New Comic Book Day, there's a lot of great content to be had from Marvel, from DC, from Skybound, from Dynamite, and a whole host of others. You can check out the independent presses that come out every Wednesday as well. Just tell Larry what it is you're looking for. Maybe you're new to comic books and you're like, well, I've been watching Peacemaker on HBO Max, but I don't really really know what to get, I kind of like this. It's like having your own personal comic book concierge. You can check out the back issues, the current issues, the toys, the games, and if you're there, start a pull list, because if you're serious about your comic books, you don't want to sell out like some comics have sold out in the past. Ultimate Spider-Man tends to sell out lately. I was just there for something else. Event Horizon has just come out with a prequel comic book, which I love that movie, and they've got a prequel comic book out. That sold out very quickly. So if you add these things to your pull list, Larry will make sure there's a fresh copy set aside in a box waiting for you when you get there. If you can't come in on Wednesday, maybe Thursday or Friday, your comic book is still there and you're not missing out. Join the Avengers Club too. That way you start saving money on all your purchases, so you're not sacrificing your hobby in this economy when some things seem to be getting pricier and pricier as the years and months roll on. You won't have to worry about that as a matter of joining the Avengers Club. Bugs Comics and Games on Instagram and on Facebook. Make sure you give his page a like. Make sure you subscribe on Instagram as well. He'll post stuff there that's for sale, and you can just say claim, and then he sends it right to your door after you pay with PayPal. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We're going to be out there this coming Wednesday for New Comic Book Day, so if you see me, just say, hey, would loved your show, loved Kelley Jones, loved Matt Wagner, love Seth Wright, and I'll say thank you, and then we'll get some comic books and we'll have a good laugh. Bugs Comics and Games. Bryan Road, O'Fallon, Missouri. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. As I said, this next composer of mine, he's got just a bunch of stuff he's worked on that had excited me, and there's a new festival. It is the Soundtracks Film Music Festival happening October 16th through the 18th in Rochester, New York, and Seth Wright will be one of the guests there. Seth, thanks for your time tonight.
James, I'm so glad to be here. It's great to talk to any fellow geeks. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of composers. We just had dynamic music partners. So we had Lolita Ritmanis and Michael McHuston and Christopher Carter on talking about the Justice League and Batman Beyond stuff they've done. And you got to design the sound work for the Batman Arkham Shadow. Talk a little bit about when you're taking on such an iconic character and such a big franchise. What were your thoughts going into that and working on the music?
It's such a huge project and an honor to be talking about. Jumping into that Batman franchise was so interesting because we were trying to both pick up the mantle and I'm sure your audience is familiar with the historic lineage of the Arkham video games themselves. And this one was unique because it was in VR.
Right.
So I was at Meta, and I'm sort of in-house, and we're making this video game. And while we're doing this, we're pouring our hearts and souls into it, and we're doing everything we can to make it authentically Arkham and a real Arkham game. And what happened was we announced the video game, and people weren't very excited about it. Like people weren't really feeling very great that it was in VR. And so we kind of had this challenge that was like, no, we really are bleeding over making this experience as authentic, as real as we can. Like, please let us earn your trust. And then, as we're going through just every step of the way, trying to honor a fan base that was rightly skeptical because they have so much respect for this character and his lineage and these stories that have been being told. So as we're going about that, we wanted to tell real Arkham stories, and we wanted to do it in a way that was authentic to VR. And of course, my whole thing is, as I'm approaching this as a music systems director on the team, I was a contributing composer working with a very small team to sort of bring this whole experience to life. Everything that we do, we want to not just be technically excellent, not just great music, right? But as your audience expects, as you listeners are looking for when you're jumping into your stories, you want something that is gripping, that is real, that is visceral from Batman, but you also want something that feels legitimately like Batman. So it was great to feel like we were able to deliver that. I'm personally I'm proud of what we did.
And you should be. And I think to your point, that's got to be probably a little bit of a higher bar because you're playing the video game if you're playing, Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, but this is actually surrounding you. So I would think the music is even more important from my standpoint.
More important, I guess, is subjective. I'm the music guy. I live and breathe this stuff. It's me. It's me at a desk in some basement all day, every single day of my life, just trying to make this music slap as hard as I can. So, I like to think so. But at the end of the day, it's what resonates with fans and what helps us tell the best stories we can. And I think we did a good job.
when you're working on a project like that versus working on something like Dead Reckoning Evolution or something like that that's for a TV project, or if you're working on something for a film, is there a different level from your standpoint of expectation? Like, obviously a job is a job and you're going to put your best foot forward and do everything you can to bring it home. But is there, from a layman's point of view, is one easier than another when you're scoring a TV project versus a video game, or is that just my layman point of view?
It's such a good question, and it's one that I get asked a lot. And the key in the answer is this thing that I built my career around. It's this phrase, music design. So a composer, as we know, creates music for the experience. And a music editor traditionally will cut music for an experience. But in the world of video games, we have this emerging field, which is what I specialize in, and what my team and my company, my people, what we do is this art and craft of music design. So what that is we're taking music and we're not just fading in and out. We're not just making music cue in and out of different moments. We're actually creating those rules whereby music reshapes itself, reforms itself in real time. And I appreciate your distinction. You know, I am very much a video game composer. I sort of like flirted with the linear world for a while, but then I got into games and I just fell in love with this idea that adaptivity, that reactivity, that how music is responding is just as much a part of the experience as these traditional things. You know, what instruments you're using, what chords you're using, all these rules.
And I want to mention, too, if you're just now listening after the show, I want you to make sure you check out Seth Wright with a W, music.com. The website's outstanding, and it not only gives you an idea of some of the stuff Seth has worked on, but you can hear some of the demos. You can reach out and contact him if you're looking for him for a specific project, because there's all sorts of, obviously music takes hold of everyone's life. There's things for this. And I love the fact that when you're watching a movie, if you hit mute when there's no dialogue, no music definitely changes the attitude. So music adds those different elements to it. I think of John Carpenter's score on Halloween, or you think of obviously the great John Williams on some of those battle scenes in Star Wars. You take that music out, and it's a cool lightsaber fight, but John Williams kind of ups the ante when you've got the Duel of the Fates playing in the background. So I'm curious, what was your initial foray into music? When did you decide that, hey, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? You know,
this crazy thing happened whenever I was a kid. I did like lots of kids do. I was in band and things like that. And I was in marching band, and that's a big deal where I grew up in Oklahoma. And so that was a part of the experience. But the real thing that sort of clinched it for me was, I'm in high school, and I'm not able to get, whenever I'm digging around at the piano, stuff that sounds good. But all of a sudden, when I buy this MIDI cable and I plug it into my piece of crap keyboard and into my computer, and I pull up, at the time it was like the early version of GarageBand on a Mac, and I push a note, and I'm like, that sounds good. And it doesn't sound good like after I pay someone to record it. It sounds good right then. It's this sort of thing where, like, I wish I could tell you that I have the patience, but the reality is, like, I want immediate results in my life. Like, I'm not the guy that's gonna put in the work. Like, if I press a note, I need that, like, satisfaction in that moment, because I'm a freaking dopamine addict, man. What I need to do is sit at a computer and play a chord and be like, yeah, that chord goes so hard right now, and that's what video game music kind of did for me. And the other thing is, my parents are fantastic. I love them to death. But the joke is, I told them, hey, Mom, I'm going to go be a composer. And she's like, that's not a real job. Do something else. And so I'm like, all right, I'll go work on video games. And she's like, dadgummit, we have not communicated clearly here. So, the joke is I did both.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that, you're living your best life. I mean, I think if you're combining music that you've got a love for and video games, which I don't trust people who don't like video games. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I want to mention the festival too. This is the Soundtracks Film Music Festival. It is happening at the Eastman Kodak Company founder George Eastman's vision to take this, and they're you along with Gary Scheinman, who we've actually had on the show before, Guy Whitmore, Andrew Borman are just some of the people who are there who are speakers. When you're doing a big festival like this, I assume this just brings together a bunch of people who just really like music as well as industry professionals. Talk a little bit about the event itself, if you could.
So the first thing you've got to know about this festival is that nothing like this has ever been done in North America. This festival is by people who love film, who love games. I mean, if you want to come out, what you're going to experience is people who are at the peak of their craft and not just doing it because they want money, not just doing it even for the cool stories, but because we care about making great art. You know, that's what Soundtracks lives and bleeds. So there's concerts for the whole I mean, really for the whole family. The lineup is just unbelievably stacked. Please, if you're listening and you're 1% interested in this, you got to go to soundtracks.org. It's got an X in it. It's soundtrad with an X.org. You've got to go. You've got to see the lineup. It is so approachable. It is so reasonable to attend this. Rochester's a great city, and my God, you're going to experience some art. You're going to experience some talking, some teaching, but mostly just some experiencing of stuff that is going to resonate with you. Come on, if you call yourself a geek, you at least need to pull up this dang website and find out why you should be at Soundtracks.
And we'll have a link to that, too. I wrote it down, soundtracks with an X.org. I assume the tickets can be purchased from there as well if people want to attend?
Sure enough, yep.
Very cool. And so what else do you have? Do you have anything that you can talk about? Because I know a lot of NDAs are signed. Do you have anything currently that you're working on that you could possibly talk for if people want to look for your next project?
Yeah, I spent the last couple years in-house at Meta as a music systems director. We shipped the Batman Arkham Shadow project, which was an absolute blast. And I was sort of looking around thinking about what comes next and, decided the time was right. So I actually founded in March of this year my own company, Write Music Interactive. We're doing the best music with the best teams for the best projects. And that's not related to budget. We just find projects that we love and care about. And frankly, the money's always kind of worked itself out when we just make great art. So we're just kind of going in that direction. Right now, we're working with some incredible studios. We're on doing lots of cool work with companies like Activision Blizzard out in California, loving working with them. Nothing I can tell you about too much right now, but I mean, if you know Blizzard, they're at the very top of their game making some incredible stuff. So we're just sort of like nose to the grindstone, making some really great music for some projects that really resonate with people right now.
Absolutely awesome. And again, I mentioned the website earlier. It is SethWrightMusic.com. That'll also be linked in the show notes. What about social media? Are you active on social media? People want to keep up with you there, or mainly the website?
Yeah, I got a Facebook. I got the LinkedIn. Other than that, I really try to just keep my little self in a basement and just keep making great music.
You make it sound so glamorous, just in a dark basement working on music, like your Salieri. But
it's groove. It's moody, man. It's broody.
No, I mean, like I said, the projects are such great fun. I loved what you did with Arkham Shadow. I can't wait to see this new thing you're working on from Blizzard and Activision. Seth Wright, I appreciate you coming on a Sunday night. Thank you so much, and break legs at the festival.
This is what we do, James. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well. There he goes. Yeah, that's gonna be cool. So we'll put a link to that if you're in that area or thinking, boy, we don't have anything going the October 16th through the 18th. We'll have a link to that. You can go grab tickets for that, and that should be a lot of fun. We're gonna take our next commercial break. We're gonna come right back. And we should have time. I don't think we're going to get to it. We've got too much. Joey and I want to talk some stuff. So my interview with Elliot Knight and Uli Latakefu, we'll push that back until next week. Joey V and I are going to talk some GalaxyCon. I think he's got a movie he wanted to review. If you want to stick around for that, Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550. Please stand by.
And press it right back on again. It's just part of the action with the world's only boxing robots, the Rock'em Sock'em robots by Marx. Takes 2 managers to handle the fighters and lots of skill to win. With these control levers, you can keep your fighters in motion to duck punches. When you press this plunger, he throws a right uppercut. Press the other plunger, and there's a left jab. Lots of exciting action and fun for everyone when the world's only boxing robots battle it out.
The blue bomber's looking for an opening. And there it is. That's the end of round 2.
Just push the flying head back, and you're ready for round 3.
Boy, this is the greatest.
You bet. The world's only boxing robots. Get the Rock'em Sock'em robots by Marx.
Snow, rain, mud. Your car's bound to get dirty. So give your car a car wash, make it look like new. Watch it in the car wash that lets you see right through Mr. Kelley's car.
This is William Daniels, and you're listening to Geek to Me.
And once again, I'm a bad person. I didn't pay attention to the chats. Hello to, I'm going back through the things here. We've got John Poe said, hi, everybody. John, hello to you. Mark Childs, our friend listening, says, hey, guys. Bob Singleton says, this is amazing. And I'm probably talking about either the composing project or the Dracula book, that either one, because everything we've talked about so far is amazing, if I do say so myself. Dan Reba's watching. Hello, Dan Reba. Brilliant artists, both. I agree and completely. Zach Williams also watching. Hello to all of you. We appreciate you checking out the show tonight. We'll make sure we tell you about the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. DiscoverStCharles.com. The first weekend of Legends and Lanterns is in the book. If you're a Halloween fan, this is certainly the month to be a Halloween fan, and certainly the month to go hang out in historic St. Charles. They got the big corn stalks out there. They got Scarecrow Glen around the gazebo right there in the 300 block. All sorts of different scarecrows from different people have put up different types of displays for the different stores and shops down there. And of course, all the characters. We have the cryptids. You got to interact with the Mothman and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. Of course, Captain Hook and Bonnie and the Siren are all back as well. Fan favorites like those. And Lizzie Borden. Count Dracula himself is out there, Vlad Tepes. You can talk to the Writer's Block, Mary Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, and the Brothers Grimm. All sorts of fun to be had. Go check it out the next 2 weekends. You've got Saturday and Sunday coming up this next weekend, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just before Halloween weekend. You can go out there and have some fun in historic St. Charles. Have a great meal at one of the restaurants. Check out the shops. They're all decked out for Halloween as well. It's really kind of just a picturesque place to go and spend a weekend and some time. A lot of people bike riding because the weather was absolutely wonderful. So people are bike riding the Katy Trail and just hanging out playing Frisbee golf. There was a family reunion in Frontier Park under that nice pavilion they have there by the Lewis and Clark statue. So there's not a better time than fall to get out there and enjoy historic St. Charles. Plan your trip at the website, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. I need to play my interview with Elliot Knight and Uli Latakafu, but we've got so much other stuff to cover. I'm going to play it next weekend, I promise. I know I announced it, but Joey V and I were both at GalaxyCon here in St. Louis this past weekend. I went on Friday. Joey, you checked it out on Saturday. What were your initial thoughts?
It seemed like the entire city of St. Louis showed up at 11 a.m. I mean, the doors opened at 10, but the line was wrapped around the block. So if you can picture an entire city block, it was all that long and then wrapped back around to the front door. So that made my heart sink a little bit. I thought, oh, St. Louis isn't putting its best foot forward. What is happening? Are they doing metal detectors or something? Because it's a very dangerous place, this St. Louis. I lived here my whole life. But the line was moving very quick. It only took about 30 minutes to get in. And it made me appreciate how long the line was because I thought, oh, my goodness, St. Louis is really showing up for this. There's a lot of nerds in the area that are willing to drop $60 just to get in the door and then spend hundreds more to get these autographs. And it really makes me feel proud that, maybe we can support another con like Two Rivers Comic-Con coming up in April. Yeah. So as long as people, keep their ear to this radio station and all the other geeky stuff, I think a lot of people could be coming this April to Two Rivers Comic-Con.
Yeah, and I believe Joey Fatone was on the list for your group that you were with to see and hang out with and get pictures with and everything.
Yeah, my lovely lady, she is an NSYNC fan for life, and so am I, actually. I have always loved NSYNC, and I was excited that Joey Fatone was there. He's not let his star fade, or he's not really gone into super mega star mode either, like Justin Timberlake, where you can't reach him.
Right.
This is someone that millions of girls were throwing themselves at, 20 years ago, and now you can just go up and have a conversation with them, and that's incredible about GalaxyCon. So we did the whole Joey Fatone flight of fancy. So she paid the $80 for the picture, and then I thought, I don't need to be in that picture, so she had her sister come in, and that was great seeing these two girls who love Joey Fatone get together and have a picture with him, smell his cologne. I assume he has a cologne fluffer as well who sniffs his pits and makes sure he's all right for those close-up photo ops. And the photo op is very rushed. They say you're in and you're out, but go ask him a question at the table. So my girl, she got out of her photo op smiling, and she went straight to his table and asked him a question about the fan fiction that she used to write. When she was in her teens, she wrote NSYNC fan fiction. She's like, Joey, did you ever read the fan fiction? She said that he did back in the day when the boys started in about 2000 and they had lots of free time on the bus. They would read fan fiction, and then he gave her a hug. And I was watching all this from afar, and it made me tear up because she got to meet one of her childhood heroes, and he was so nice, and she got to hug him, and she was so brave and went up and asked a question. And then we went to his panel as well, and he had lots of great stories. So it's those interactions that are incredible to me, and there's just hundreds of celebrities from each fandom that will make your heart sing. If you see someone like Murr from Impractical Jokers, he's a real-life guy who's being himself on TV every day, and you have this parasocial relationship. Like, I know him, but he doesn't know me, but he's going to be nice to you when you go up and see him. Yeah. April O'Neil is one of my true loves from the 1990 movie. She was there. I loved seeing this con that I experienced with you a few years ago in 2019, the Louisville GalaxyCon. Right, I'm glad to see basically the full thing come here. It felt a little less epic than the one in Louisville, but it still was professionally run and everything looked amazing in there.
Yeah, they may have scaled back a little bit. This is their first foray into the St. Louis market, so maybe I think Louisville had been already tried and true for them, so maybe they kind of wanted to start a little smaller. Maybe they'll bring the wrestling rings, were something you really enjoyed at Louisville.
I love the cosplay wrestling that they did. Skeletor would be fighting Wreck-It Ralph, and they were doing their magic moves to each other.
Yeah, maybe they'll bring that back for if they come in year two. Hopefully they do make it a second round, because it's always good to have stuff like that in the area. But yeah, I had fun. I got to meet Weird Al. I got to interview James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ratchet and Clank, and so many other voices. We had a lovely chat while we were there on the floor. I got to host a panel with our friends at Mostly Superheroes, talking about the comic books you should be reading. It was a good time. We had a lot of fun. I got a really nice. I went ahead and very nice sketch that Alan Davis did, who's one of my favorites. I used to read Excalibur as a kid growing up, and he quickly did a Scarecrow sketch. It was just like, I can't believe you knocked that out in 10 minutes, because it was fantastic. And he complained. He said, well, when I was doing Scarecrow for Detective Comics, I was still learning, and which blows my mind because it was a masterpiece back then, and it's even better now. But yeah, it's very cool that you had those. Obviously, our friend Rick Burchett was there as well.
Jan DeMatteis,
yeah. So we've had a lot of our alumni on the show, and obviously Sean Gunn. We just had him on last week to talk about the con. So yeah, it was a good time, and I'm glad to see it went well.
I hope they come back. I don't know the statistics of how many people were there. It felt very comfortable. It didn't feel crowded when I was there on Saturday, and the amount of looking at people that I got to do is it's so incredible that you can go in and you think, I have nothing I'm really interested in. And then you are looking at celebrities at their tables and how they're interacting. And then you're looking at the costumes and then all of the toys that they have for sale and everyone having fun. I mean, it's sensory overload over there.
Yeah, it was a little slow on Friday, which is great for me because there was there was a short line for some of the people I wanted to get up and get in to see, and that's why I was able to do my interview on site with James Arnold Taylor. So usually when I go to these cons, I usually get to go all 3 days, and Fridays and Sundays are my best days for interviews because they're the slower days. So Friday was very slow, so I hope that didn't affect their bottom line. Hopefully they'll not write us off and be like, oh, St. Louis was a bust. Hopefully they'll come back. But
our friend Ash from Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell, his line was insane the entire time I was there. My girlfriend's brother-in-law waited, I'm pretty sure, 2.5 hours to get his autograph. And, he stopped signing around 5:30. I think at 4 o'clock, they had a guy waiting at the end of Bruce Campbell's line that said, line has been capped. He's holding a sign. We don't even know if we're going to get through this many people. It's incredible to see what is hitting for people. You know, Bruce Campbell, I've seen him many times live at the Tivoli. I've seen him at former Wizard World. And still, his line is crazy long. And you think that's just the guy from a few cult films and, you know, some cameos. And people love Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And then animes I've never heard of, their lines are wrapped around the block and filling up the main theater. This
right. One Piece.
I'm going to butcher this just to see if it'll get a comment. This Bazoo Hotel, something hotel, Casa, I have no idea. Some sort of anime that filled up the main auditorium, and there were 1,000 people in there. I don't know.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, anime is big. Anime is big. Listener John Poe says, I was at GalaxyCon 2, loved it, met Michelle Ang and Sarah Natacheni and Weird Al. Yeah, hopefully the event comes back. We've got just a couple minutes left before we get out of here. Do you think you can do a 2-minute review of Roofman for us?
I want to sing the praises for Roofman just so people see it. I want it to succeed. This is the Channing Tatum film based on a 100% completely true story. You can't believe it. Once you read the details, you won't believe it. But this guy, he's sentenced to 45 years in prison because he broke into the roof of 45 McDonald's and robbed them. And he's sentenced to basically life in prison. So he figures out a way to break out of prison, and then he ends up living inside of a Toys R Us for 6 months. And this is set in the year 2000 when all of those McFarlane toys were popping.
Oh, yeah.
And your Tickle Me Elmos are there. And this guy was having fun, but also laying low so he didn't get sent back to prison. Channing Tatum does a wonderful job. He's so funny. He's got the charisma. You got to check your Tatum tolerance at the door. If you like him, you'll be fine. If you're indifferent, you'll be fine. If you don't like him, then you're not going to like him because he's in every single frame.
Yeah.
But him and Kirsten Dunst have an amazing relationship, and I cried at the end.
Oh.
So this movie really hit me in the heart feels, and I went and listened to a true crime podcast about the true story afterwards, and I just became obsessed with this story. So check out Roofman if you can. It was only $20 million. It's a movie made for adults. It's about relationships. But just the nostalgia factor pulled me in so deep. Just seeing all those toys at Toys R Us made me happy to watch it.
And that came out this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's in theaters right now. Roofman.
All right, yeah, well, that was on my list. I just I got busy and my spam kicked the email into my spam folder, and I missed the invitation to it. Otherwise, I would have loved to have gone and seen that. But that looks like I'm not a huge Channing Tatum fan. Tatum Channing.
Yeah, the way you pronounce his name, I can tell.
Okay.
I think you would definitely love the problem solving, like breaking out of prison. The prison break is fascinating. The way he sets up his Toys R Us little sleeping area is incredible. The way he can get in and out at night, I love that. It's like when you watch Breaking Bad and they were showing you how to make explosives out of thermite, which I think is in Etch-a-Sketches or something. It made me think of getting into Breaking Bad and like, oh man, the chemistry is fascinating.
I like the fact that they two actors of their caliber, because they're both pretty big heavy hitters, and this movie was done for $20 million even with their fees, because normally if you get a Julia Roberts, that's $40 million right there just for her salary. So I'm impressed that it's a low budget, because I feel like we need more of those lower budget films hitting the theaters.
Yeah, I think Channing and Kirsten Dunst just love the story. And then Peter Dinklage is in it as well, and he is an a-hole as the manager of the Toys R Us, so it's always fun to see him pop up and act bigger than he is, because he's a little person.
That's true, yes. But no, I appreciate the review. Thank you very much.
And I want to shout out our YouTube listener, Olivia Miller. She's been asking the best question. She loves werewolves, and she reminded me it's Has Been Hotel. So I knew if I said it wrong, I would get a comment. So thank you, Olivia. You're the best.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm only seeing the Facebook comments, Olivia. So I wasn't ignoring your comments. I'm only seeing the Facebook thing, and I have to pull those up on my phone. I'll show you right here, because the chat in Restream no longer shows me any chats at all. So I was not ignoring you, but I'm glad Joey caught that. Has Been Hotel. I remember seeing that as one of the fandoms.
She had some very
listed.
Scientific questions for our Dracula guys. Like, are there any werewolves in there, and can they fight each other?
Ooh, no, I don't think they have. I think this was strictly Dracula
That's
driven.
book 4.
But yes. Well, maybe, or book 5. They said if it goes on, they might do some more. But thank you for all of you to listen tonight. Thank you to Matt Wagner and Kelley Jones. Check out the Kickstarter. We'll have that link there in the comments again. And thank you to Seth Wright. The music festival sounds amazing. You can get tickets to that at soundtracks.org. And it is the Soundtracks Film Music Festival. Thank you to Joey V for coming in and doing video tonight, and for his review of Roofman. And thank you to all of you. Oh, I got to turn that tradition. I got to turn the cameras on. There it is. Thank you to all of you for listening, and we've got more shows planned for the rest of this month already with great guest book. Stay tuned to hear more. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch the Flash. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Castle Dracula. Good night.